Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with a new playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4. The map looks a little different. I know many of you probably have already checked this out on other YouTube plays, but this is going to be mine of Kaiserreich. The basic premises, as I understand it, I've never played a full game, but I've seen bits and pieces of it and looked around, is that Germany won, or the Central Powers, maybe I should say, won the First World War, and this is their reimagining of what that would have looked like. And so far, looking around, it looks very interesting. It looks very immersive. I was surprised at all the various puppet types that Germany has. So, and that's what we're going to play as first. I know there's a bunch of people playing different nations, different challenges. Just because Germany's really popular on my channel, I figure I would play that one first, and we can take a look at that and see where we go from there. So let's get going. I've just done some of the basics, starting the same. If you can come over here and look. The equipment is all sort of standard type Hearts of Iron stuff, so no real surprises there. So just got some production going. I think state of the economy is what we're going to do. It's pretty quick focus, gets things going. We can get down to the Kaiser Wilhelm Society, which would gain a research slot, which would be nice. I will say I have played some months, I would say, into 1936. So that's about as far as I played. So any of you that are experienced with Kaiserreich, post suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. Tips, suggestions, those types of things. Okay. The Kaiserreich team proudly presents Kaiserreich Alpha 0.4.8 to Russia with Love, Hearts of Iron. Okay, first off, there are several things we'd like to point out regarding our new mechanics. If you check the political tab of your country, you'll see we added all kinds of exciting new things. Keep in mind that your stability level is directly influenced by your political power balance. Positive, good, negative, bad, so keep an eye on that. Second, you should also be aware that the mod is designed with the assumption that the player will always annex all possible states in peace treaties, so you should make sure you do that. Finally, we'd like to remind you that this is still alpha. Alright, okay. Thank you, Kaiserreich team. Tell me more about this exciting new stability system. Okay, we will... Well, this has the best thing. Should I play with historical focuses on? While it shouldn't make any difference, we recommend it. Wait, can I? Okay. No. Okay. Uh-oh. Took away 10. It took away my political points that I thought I had earned. We want to know everything. That's not nice of them. Okay. Following the 1926 German intervention in China, the Treaty of Nanjing, signed in November of that year, foreign trade was left to the richest cities of the coast and under joint control of world powers owning interest in China. The independence of these consortium of cities was guaranteed by the major local and international powers such as the Qing Empire. Okay. Let the money flow. Good, that's nice. See, we have a puppet over here Post on Gesellschaft. That's like some sort of East Asian company, sort of like, I guess, the East India Company type thing. That's one thing that I don't think many modern people know how much, including Japan. This isn't just European powers, but many powers wanted, oh, so we have actually direct control up here, okay, wanted controls over regions of China, maybe not quite as big / direct rulership, but they wanted zones of economic control, if you will, meaning that they would control imports, exports, and that kind of thing. That's where the U.S., who was intervening in China, wanted the quote-unquote open door policy, meaning basically free markets, I think is a good way to put it, so that any country can compete in there. So if, pick a major city, I don't know, supply gasoline or something to it, or oil, or however, whatever, everybody can open up a gas station and do sales in it instead of restrict it just to one concern, or one country's concerns, or whatever. But what the Queen, how do you Qing Empire. This is Henry Puyi, who is the last Manchu Emperor of China, who historically was deposed by the nationalists, and then later reinstalled up in Manchuria or Manchukuo by the Japanese. But and he did have a fairly, even before he was thrown out, fairly positive Western outlook. But what the U.S. did want to do, and agreed with the outside power, is that he didn't want China to be the U.S. didn't want China to be an isolated market in and of itself, which it had been trying to do, keep out foreign trade, basically, and that goes long ways back. They've wanted to keep out foreign trade. And so the U.S. wanted to force that open as well, but just didn't want to have exclusive zones. Okay, the assassination of President Kerensky. Kerensky has just been shot and killed while on his way to the Senate. This, I presume, is in Russia. The assailant was taken down by the police, but the goals and the intentions of the attackers are unknown, despite his massive unpopularity among the Russian people due to his botched land reform and ineffective rule. Kerensky was nevertheless able to hold the country together for years. His death has thrown Russia into chaos. The senators are already discussing a possible replacement to Kerensky. New coalitions are being formed, both between the left and right, and wild military men like Denikin, Wrangel, and Korlinov are just one step away from intervening to dissolve democracy and save Mother Russia. Generally speaking, I like Denikin. I very much like Wrangel as a personage. Okay, the Constitution of the German Kaiserreich. Lot to read here. I hope you're interested in hearing it, because this is very much a story-driven mod. After the crushing defeat of the Second French Empire by forces of the Northern German Federation, our Constitution was signed in 1871 by the representatives of the North German Federation and the 4 Southern German states. The Constitution put the Southern German states under the influence of the Northern German Federation, thus giving a large entity known as the Deutsches Reich. That was historically proclaimed in Versailles, in the Hall of Mirrors, by Otto von Bismarck. According to the Constitution, the Empire was a federation of 25 German states. The Bundespräsidentium was held by the King of Prussia, who had the title of German Emperor. Kaiser is just German for Caesar. like Tsar is German for Caesar. Um, and of course Caesar is the basically the first name, if you will, of, and it's sort of maybe even of Caesar of the Julii, Julius Caesar, or because it's sort of the family, because they sort of put the family name first, if I understand how that goes. But I may be messing that up in ancient Rome too. So if somebody wants to point to the correct of that, wherever correction for that, that'd be fine. But that's sort of where all the a lot of the Easterners, at least that's from my perspective, like to use the title for emperor is just appropriating the sort of name for coming out of Julius Caesar. The emperor appointed the chancellor, the head of the government, and chairman of the Bundesrat, the Council of Representatives of the German states. Laws were enacted by the Bundesrat and the Bundestag, the imperial diet, elected by male Germans above the age of 25. However, it is the emperor, not the Bundesrat or the Bundestag, who leads the power of the German Empire. With an option to dissolve the Bundestag on whim, it is clear that the main political power in the German Empire rests with the not with the Bundestag elected by the people, but with the hands of the non-elected German Emperor. Another issue is the Prussian three-class voting system, which has remained unchanged since 1849. Over 60 years after the founding of the Kaiserreich, the liberals and social democrats are growing increasingly disgruntled with the status of things, and the Constitution may see large revisions in the next few years. The Constitution guarantees stability, at least. Yes, good. Constitutions are supposed to do that. Constitutions are supposed to give an understanding of the way the government system works, and so people know the bounds to play within. Okay, George V, the last king of Great Britain and Ireland to have ruled the home islands themselves, has passed while in exile in Canada. The first Windsor king, his reign shall be remembered with sorrow and sadness, as during it Britain lost both the Walter Craig and its homeland. The crown was inherited by Edward, Prince of Wales, who is now stylized himself as Edward VIII. King Edward is a vehement or vengeful and ambitious man, and not on good terms with the Prime Minister Mackenzie King. He lives on the goal of avenging his father and reconquering the British Isles. Thus is quite popular among the British exiles in Canada. Interesting. Okay. That is interesting. Let's pause here because I want to take a look around, because I quite honestly hadn't even looked that far into this. Okay, so this is the Union of Britain. So they've entirely lost Ireland, it looks like. Looks like they are syndicalists. Maximus. That would be very unpopular with Scotland. This Union of Britain, if it says anything as I think. I don't know how well the Kaiserreich people did that, but so there's a United Kingdoms with the understanding, and still to this day, that Scotland has its own laws. Okay, so this is the Dominion of Canada. There's Edward, Liberals, Tories. Okay. Okay, state of the economy. This is going to happen pretty soon. So I'm going to do subsidized Siemens. Although I want that extra slot really badly. Like I say, I played part of 19. Oh, we also have part of... quite honestly, I'm not even sure all the territories we control. Okay, payment of the breast lot top reparations. Okay. And we are building a few civil factories, and once we get those built done, I'm going to build some more, but I'm also going to use them to import some oil. Black Monday, that's sort of what I was realizing was coming. This is at least very much a setup for the beginning of the Kaiserreich here for Germany. On the 3rd of February 1936, probably shouldn't start that with our national focus, but oh well. On the 3rd of February 1936, the Berlin Stock Exchange stopped sinking. It plunged, fueled by instability in the market, instability of the market panic. Selling erupted as soon as the stock market opened on Monday morning. It took well into the night for the teleprinters to stop sputtering out results of what became known as Black Monday. When the results had been analyzed, it was clear that the situation had only gotten worse. The shock of the unprecedented economic collapse will no doubt be felt over the entire world. The German Golden Age has ended, for now at least. Okay. Wonder what they're figuring caused that. Probably it's just a story plot line. Because in the U.S., and it's often overlooked to understand Black Friday, which I'm sure that they're getting this from, happened because of a tornado hit Florida. No, sorry, a hurricane, not a tornado. It hit Florida. In Florida, at the time, most everybody lived up here in Florida. Okay? Almost nobody lived down here. They'd only recently built a railway down here, and huge amounts of land speculation had been going on. A lot of people from this part of the world started to speculate on land down here. And land would change hands rapidly. People would buy it and never see it. They would show up and buy plots of land, the size of a house or something like that, in supposedly plotted out neighborhoods. Like, this is where the streets are going to be. Not that there's any streets or anything like that, but just all these sort of plots of lands for that, or other, buy a block or whatever. But none of it had been improved in the idea of like building even a simple street. It just sort of like, this is where it's going to be. Why don't you, invest in it? This is going to be a big boom. And huge amounts of people had invested in it. But most of the people, and the land would change 3 or 4 times in a matter of weeks or months of who owned a particular plot of land. Most of the people never saw the original plots of land. Many of them weren't even down in Florida. As someone pointed out, which is how I sort of found out about this, is the Marx Brothers movie Coconuts deals with the land speculation. Well, again, most people had never hardly been down here, and a huge hurricane hits with no warning, because they didn't have warning systems really, or no real warning. And when it came in and it hit, it did a lot of damage. And then there was a second one, and some of the stuff is muddled in my mind, but either the first or the second one that hit, they came fairly close together. But one of them came and the eye went right over like Miami, or one of the main centers of population. So none of these people had experienced a hurricane before, or in any sort of sense of that. Now you can say that, well, because hurricanes are big area. Not that none of them had been living along the coast, but really effectively none of them had been hit by one. They had come around and get the sort of storm outer effects of it. I'm not saying none of that, but the eye came over and everyone go, wow, what's this? So everyone went outside And then once that eye passed over, it goes from it doesn't ramp up. It goes from like 0 to 120 in just a matter of seconds. And you're just trapped outside. And so where normally, the storm gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It's not like a tornado when it's, just intensifies and zipping around. No, the storms are getting, it's getting bad. This hour is worse than the last hour. And so it's getting worse. Everyone, hunkers down, gets to safe places. Worse was everyone was outside. It was a nice day because the hurricane just passed and they were right in the eye of it. And, tens of thousands of people, if I understand correctly, died when the eye passed. And they just get slammed into this like Category 5 or whatever hurricane. And so there were sort of like two of these things. And when the second one hit, that collapsed the land market speculation in Florida, which then there was the stock market speculation up in New York that was connected with it. And again, like speculation down in Florida, it wasn't that the stock market was doing bad. There was a boom was coming to it, but you were allowed to buy stuff on the margin, meaning like, hey, the stock's going to go up. You just put 20% down on it, so you buy $1,000 worth of stock for $200. Now, if it starts going down, you're going to have to, pay the rest. But if it keeps going up, no problem. You can buy it on margin. So what happened is that so many people, and through all levels of society, even poor people, but a lot of them that wouldn't be considered poor, but might be just, sort of middle class or, upper, lower class or whatever, but not quite poor, but people that were making it okay in the roaring 20s, the boom of the roaring 20s, who were making it okay, had put money into the stock market. But not just that they had bought $100 worth or $20 worth, because $20 was a real amount of money back then, $20 worth of stock. They had put $20 down for, say, $100 in shares. And then when they got margin calls, they had to, meaning either part or full, they had to come up with that money, and they just didn't have the money. And there wasn't, like there is today, there wasn't the bankruptcy laws. So you were on the hook for it. And you had to pay off on these margin calls. And it was not on what the stock was worth, but what you bought it at. So if you bought stock at, $1 a share, and then it's worth 10 cents a share, you still had to pay the full dollar on the margin calls per share. And creditors were going to come after you for it. So if you owned a house, they were going to come after your house. If you owned a car, you owned anything, any sort of property, they were going to come after that. So at some point, you tried to sell your stock at anything because, hey, if I can get if it's $1 a share and I can get 50 cents a share, hey, that's half of my margin calls because it always, it'd be like $100 worth. So you get $50 worth, and then all I have to do is come up with another $50. And this is at a time, if you think, oh, $50 might have bought a house. Not at a high property, maybe New York City central area, but out in Providence, Rhode Island, $50 would have bought a house. You have to understand what money and property was worth back then. So coming up with $50 wasn't just an easy thing, or $100 or whatever it is, and I'm probably off on some percentage, but you get the point. So you had to come up with these margin calls. So this just collapsed the value of the stocks, collapsed people's savings and income because people weren't smart. People believed that the boom was going to continue. This is why margin calls in the U.S. or buying stocks on the margin has been entirely gone. You can no longer do that. You have to, if you're going to buy $100 worth of a stock, you have to give them $100 worth of dollars for the stock. You can take a loan out from the bank or something on, say, real property. So if you have, say, a second home, you go, hey, yeah, I've got a $500,000 in the second home. I think the stock is going to go up. I want to, get a $200,000 loan. So, so you don't necessarily have to have $200,000 right now, and so it's sort of speculating. But the bank knows that it can come and get your home to pay it off if things go wrong. So, if you're halfway smart, you invest, you only invest in things you can afford to lose, like a second home or some such thing. You know, if you're sure that this stock's going to work out. So there are still ways to speculate in the stock market, but no longer on the margin. So that is why, partially, also deals with some of the stuff was lack of loan repayments that U.S. gave overseas after World War I and whatever. So that there was still this. So the economy collapses in the U.S. and that's why the U.S. economy collapses. I don't see a similar sort of detailed why a Black Monday here is that, but there's a little history there. So now we've had this hit, and we're now down into the negatives of political power. The Reds are clearly, France shows its true face. The Reds are clearly set to spread their poison, as they have clearly shown during the last session of the elections. We must prepare for anything. Okay. I think this is interesting in that France is the Commune of France. They somehow figure, and I don't get all this, that the French Republic under Pétain would have continued out in Africa. I know this, particularly Algiers area, not so much Tunisia, but Algiers was part of metropolitan France. And that's why the French fought so hard for Algiers for quite some time. And they really had started in, around the 1840s or whatever, tried to make just this part, not Morocco, not Tunisia, not way out into here, but not a colony, but a actual part of France. It never worked out so well, and I don't understand. I guess they're figuring that there was a mass migration of non-communist French out to populate that. I don't know. Okay, German citizens panicked by the collapse of the Berlin stock market are rushing to make bank runs to withdraw their assets. The banks cannot afford to give out such sums, and many are in danger of collapse. Many are clamoring for immediate government intervention to stabilize the unprecedented. Close the banks temporarily. Guarantee holdings of private individuals which grants consumer factors. I think we're going to guarantee private individuals, which is different than guaranteeing the holdings of all businesses and everything else, and protecting the banks. So we're going to do that. Again, we're hitting negative political power. Okay, transmission from the Emirate of Afghanistan. The Emirate declares war on the okay. Financial troubles in the colonies. Okay. Rising inflation and constantly debased Reichsmark means that state expenses on the German colonies had become too great to maintain pre-Black Monday tax codes. Some maverick politicians proposed raising taxes, but raising taxes on German nationals, just 8 German colonies, would obviously not be popular, especially not under the present economic situation. Most of the Reichstag merely proposes limiting financial support for our colonial possessions. What should we do? Raise taxes. That's a big hit to political power. Spare the expense of the colonies under direct control. Okay, so China and Africa basically will get a hit by us, are in political liking of us, and tighten our belts and they'll have to find other sources of income. We're not going to create the... we're going to go with this. We're already sort of negative. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. The 5th Anglo-Afghani War. The situation hardly improved. The days following Black Monday, which was the start of what became known as Black Week, panic selling of stocks reached an all-time high. as people tried to dump their stocks before they became worthless. When the Berlin stock market closed at the end of the week, the market was dead as just 11 major economic experts and top executive Germans had committed suicide. The German government had to act. We must reform the economy. Now, real companies, and not all businesses or all stock market things are real companies in the sense of holding assets, like, do the banks, shall we say, own the land in the city in which their banks are on, or are they just trading in assets and leasing spaces? So at times when collapses like this happen, and this is what did happen in the U.S., a lot of the companies did go out of business because a lot of the companies were, and part of the thing that was going on was a radio boom that went bust. We could look at that as also an element of the stock market collapse in the U.S. But you have that going on, and so not all automotive factories are going to survive, but some are going to survive. So if you pick your companies wisely and buy in wisely at a big crash like this, you can do quite well. So we must reform the economy. Okay, agricultural crisis in Mittel Europa, which is somewhere around here. During the time of the Great Crisis, agricultural sector in Germany is one of the most vulnerable. Youngsters representing land have asked for protective legislation. Okay. Kingdom of Poland. No, we're hit pretty bad here. Basically, we're looking at, so they really like us. Okay, now there are we're going to promise to help. It's going to hurt our political powers, but I think if we can ride this out, if I'm understanding you right, this has something to do with Jews? No, I don't think so. What's that? Zugbar, 1800? Execute Order 86, I'm not sure. Send the menace of the German people. I have heard that somebody suggested sending Jews to Madagascar, if that's what you're referring to. Not my plan, no. Oh, no, communists. Oh, well, maybe. Because communist revolutionaries are people that choose to be so. And that we might do. Yeah. So I hadn't heard that, and if that's something that I should know about in Kaiserreich, I haven't encountered that yet. Okay. Okay. We're going to promise to help. We're going to try to ride this out. Electoral gridlock in France. Commune of France and the world's leading syndicalist nation has federation. Okay, so they are. The communists in France are not united, which is good news for us. We don't want communists united against us. The death of Pope Pius XI.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
This is an interesting border with France. Not that I think it is unhistorical for what it would have been. Okay, we're subsidizing Siemens. Downfall of stability, okay. Yes, so we are not doing well there. We're going to do this as the aftermarket. 21 days, and then we'll get plus 50 political power. We need to make sure that the French do not decide to act up. Downfall of stability, okay. Okay. Hauptstadt terrorize the cities. With the devastating economic situation, many families struggle to earn their daily bread, and the social security net is strained beyond the breaking point. Now, in the last weeks, the streets of many German cities have been increasingly terrorized by gangs of teenagers. These Hauptstadts steal products from the markets and shops, and are often money from innocent pedestrians, or commit acts of vandalism to escape the boredom and frustration. More and more citizens do not feel safe anymore in the street. Mein Gott, shocking. Okay, well that isn't good. We may spiral down into complete chaos here, but we may be able to withstand things. We have 0 manpower. Okay, well, that will help us out a little bit. Now, let's see what else we can do here. Political power, liquidate, unprofitable. Imperial restructuring, political power. Let's try that.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
This definitely seems like a situation where we're trying to write up chaos. The First International Congress, representative of numerous syndicalist and socialist nations, have gathered in Paris today in what might be just a defining moment in the history of the ideologies. The French Commune has invited numerous gathered members of the Third International to discuss political foreign matters. Okay, the bad guys. Okay, keep Crete under our influence. Well, we can sell Crete to the Greeks. Now, they don't like us because of different ideologies, but they had been our allies in the last war, and obviously in the last war we won. We have down here as we have a little mini territory here. Okay, well, how interesting. Or we can give it to the Greeks. My personal current emotional thing. Okay, they like us better. They're in no faction. Social conservative. He's gone pro-Greeks. Okay, well, let's remove our garrison here.
Zuhören.
We'll put it down here. This is one of the little puppet states that... Okay, where's our meeting to coordinate activities? Okay. Let's give it to the Greeks. Maybe we can create Greeks as our friends as a... Great, that will help our political power. Let's move into Malta here. Maybe that's where we should move the power base. France shows its true face. The Reds are clearly set to spread their poison, as they have clearly shown. During the last session of the elections, we must prepare. No, come on, go to the letter. Well, so far I'm liking this. This is quite interesting. The Ma clique declared war on Mongolia. How interesting. So the Ma clique is going after Mongolia. If I remember correctly, is ruled by this guy. What's his name? Roman von Eugen-Sternberg. He was sort of a Russian madman. I think he died like in 1932 or something, historically. But he's a very interesting guy. Okay, our ideology grown due to popular policies. One of our loyal ministers has managed to strengthen our ideology with some additional influence. We could use this to increase our popularity. Excellent. Okay, it's going to cost us. We're just getting out of some of our hole here. Increased activity of the suffragette movement. Lately there has been a rise in activity. Supporters of women's suffrage. That is, those who want to grant women the right to vote and to run for office. It's a struggle for our times. Okay. Cause we're supporting. Well, as we've seen, having women vote isn't the worst thing in the world, so yes, we will do that. I'm personally much more interested in education levels and other sorts of things to determine who should vote. Okay, they signed a white piece. That's interesting there. Okay, so, and we got basic machine tools. And remilitarization of Olentia. The Treaty of Bucharest in 1918 officially ended the period for Romania, but the High Constitution is now going to Austria. Okay. Hold on, pause it. The Papal Conclave. The Catholic faithful in Rome breathed a sigh of relief as the Sistine Chapel chimney billowed fourth white smoke, signaling the election of a new pope. A short time later, it was announced that the hardline Theodore Cardinal Inzigler, a true political player and staunch opponent of syndicalism, has become His Holiness Pope Julius the fourth leader of the Catholic Church and head of the state of the Italian Federation. Okay. Now, we want to come over here. I think these are better. And it's, I would say subjective, because they both have benefits. Okay, electoral gridlock in Britain. 1936, the Trade Union Congress of the Union of Britain has made out to be decisive. Long-term chairman of the TCU, Philip Snowden, declared his resignation, causing the four major factions of the Union Maximus, Autonomist, Federalist, and Congregationalist to butt heads over the opposition. I don't know where they're coming up with these names. Not that they're saying Congregationalists. Is that a religious branch or branch group? Federal relationists would probably be one, Federal Britain. Don't know. Maximists? Autonomous regions within Britain? I don't know. Okay, the dust settled. The nuclear faction emerged from the hotly contested. Okay. Okay, we got the translator and the radio. I'm not sure what the translator is, but okay, we can't do that yet. Oh, sail us on. Approach Poland. Okay, we're gonna have to eventually decide on that. But we can do imperial instruction, which will give us another 100 political power. We could use that. I would like to be able to improve our government and policies to get more manpower. Because right now I suspect we can't deploy some of our ships because we don't have manpower. Poland falls to syndicalism. Okay. That may mean we get to go to war with them at some point, but that may... Yeah, we hardly have any consumer product or industrial production for the consumer goods. Wow. Okay, our ideology has grown. Okay, so which is the DKP, Authoritarian Democrat Party leader. Okay, well you're. Well. Planned by, okay, Arab Congress. Planned by Arab nationalists in Egypt, the Arab Congress is an event in Cairo where delegates from all Arab nations convene to discuss the situation and preservation of Arab culture and identity. Unfortunately, this awkward, unwanted nationalism is in our Arabic-speaking province. Okay, which... Okay, revolution in Siam. There's a lot of stuff going on in this. Yesterday, a successful revolution was achieved in Siam by a clique of officers and intelligentsia who called themselves Kana Ratston, People's Party. The heir of the throne and the chief of the police were placed under arrest. And the king, who was not in Bangkok when the coup was carried out, returned to the capital and accepted the fait accompli. The present upheaval in Siam, evidently a political expression of the malaise produced by the pressure of the economic crisis, as they tried to move themselves from absolute monarchy towards self-government. After securing a parliamentary constitution where it is the provisional government set up by themselves will prosper or devolve into a dictatorship is still up in the air. Okay. Interesting going on out there. Arab Congress, the revolt in the North was a failure, mostly due to the defeat of the Entente. The millions of Arabs living in the Levant and Iraq stayed under Ottoman rule. Despite this, though, the Arab nationalism has been on the rise for many years and has finally culminated in the beginning of the Arab Congress in Cairo. Representatives from the numerous Arabic nations greeted with spectacular Egyptian dancers and artillery salute. Experts predict that Egypt and Hashemite Arabia, which is different than Saudi Arabia. You gotta realize the term Saudi Arabia is not a place name in the sense of like Yemen or Aden is a place name, and it is not other sort of specific things. It is like this is Hashemite Arabia, which is, if you've watched the movie Lawrence of Arabia, the monarch that Lawrence is serving is the Hashemite monarchy that ends up ruling Iraq. Is where they end up. The Hashemites end up there. At least the main branch of it does. I'm not sure. Is Jordan also a Hashemite kingdom? Maybe. It's the Saudi Arabia as in the family. So it's an interesting sort of thing. Will lead the Congress, a Congress where buttresses towards the Ottomans and sometimes even discussions of Arab axis against the Turks come through. Now it's interesting because against the Turks. This is the Ottoman Empire as opposed to the Turkish Empire. And Osman's Empire, that's where the name comes from, is a religious empire, which is the caliphate, sort of the continued successors from Muhammad and such, and that's where they sort of get their rule for. And although the Turks are at the core of it, it is a multi-ethnic empire, and it's meant and designed to be multi-ethnic, meant to be Islamic. Christians and Jews are tolerated within it, but it's meant to be Islamic and not just Turkic. It is only, or primarily, I was only going to say only, but primarily after the Ataturks rise and take over in Turkey, do they try to make it into a Turkish country, and where because they did earlier had the Armenian massacre, is why I say it's not entirely, but there's sort of other reasons for that, the Armenian genocide, which was very real. But the Kurds, once the Turks got in control, they tried to change the Kurds into simply mountain Turks, because they want everybody in Turkey to be Turkish, as in Turkish in culture, where under the Ottomans, the Kurds were just, there were Arabs, there were Kurds, there were, other sort of ethnic groups. It wasn't just trying to be a monolithic culture. And so that's how, with the Arabs, it wasn't meant to be anti-Arabic, but it was meant to be an Ottoman, Osman's empire. Ceylon Island is settled by Sinhalese and Tamils, who have battled for reign over the island. Recent crisis has caused even more havoc. Okay, no, lovely. Another hit to our stuff construction, which we don't like. But we want to get this going. Which is a colony of ours that we're trying to maintain down here. Germany has a big lot of colonies, actually. We also have down here, which is, I don't know, helping, hurting us, or whatever. It's getting us resources, that's for sure. Right now, my main goal is just to get good stability up for the German Empire, and then we can start improving things and changing conscription laws and things like that to get more manpower. Okay, imperial restructuring, great. That helped us out immensely. Okay, we can do the Eastern Promise. Democracy in Prussia. Organize the youth. Christian Trade Union. That would be, I think that's at least a lot of manpower and some political. Will not have funds. Okay. Basically secret police. New locomotives. Zip 1, what's this? Okay. Civilian factory. We also have military expansion. And finish the 1934 Navy plan. That's it. I'd like to do this, but I want more political power before we start that. Let's try to organize the youth. Well, yeah, that'll get us some manpower and a little more political power as we keep trying to dig ourselves out of this hole. To those watching on YouTube, if you haven't known, I'm Gamer1745. I got a YouTube channel that mainly plays Hearts of Iron, both 3 and 4. That's Gamer_1745 over on YouTube if you want to check things out. And this will be the first episode in a ongoing series over there. Okay, we're still just in August. Don't think we need synthetic oil just yet. Yeah, that would be good to do. Social reforms achieve Italian majority. The Fifth Congress of the Great Italian Union, known to the rest of the world as the Socialist Republic of Italy, has ended with the Italian Social Reform Party led by Filippo Turante achieving the majority of seats in the government, and the change in the regime marks the turn of the Republic towards a more moderate stance and the rise of the possibility of a more peaceful relations with the Italian Federation. Okay. Because the kingdom of Two Sicilies down here, as I would call it, is a sort of independent thing. Increase in stability. Okay, ooh, goodwill. That will help us out. Sudantag. After the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871, the Sudantag was established to celebrate the war deciding victory at Sedan. Oh, okay. Sedan Day. Okay, I get it. Originally a holiday to honor the Prussian military, the Sudantag transformed into a celebration of the foundation of the Reich after the Walter Krieg, the defeat of those forces that tried to destroy it throughout every town, village, and from Aachen to Memel, every street. Okay, so we gain some political power. Nice. Keep blipping up there as we recruit a few more people, but we are so much in the negative, it looks like. And we're doing our best to arm up things. Wish we'd get a few more of these factories done. Well, we got one of them done. So, getting one done leads me to want to convert that over to see about getting some more oil. Where do we want to get it from, though? Well, Netherlands wouldn't be a bad choice. That will help out production a bit. And we now have radios. Well, let's start researching global warfare. Might come in handy if somebody acts up, like the Poles out here. Portuguese colonies in Africa. Ever since the end of the Weltkrieg, that mean World War, I guess. My German isn't great, so I'm going with that means World War. Officials of both Berlin and in Dar es Salaam, the capital down here in Africa, have had their designs about expansion of the Vrystaat Mittelafrique. Most of those plans involved annexation of Portuguese colonies in Africa, most notably Angola and Mozambique. True geopolitical anomalies, foreign enclaves within the mighty and huge German colonial holdings. Only the Peace with Honor Accords, which serves as the colonial empires of the Entente powers after the Great War, was prevented from annexing these territories. Britain officially abandoned these expansionist plans instead of starting to rebuild good relations. Recent discoveries of new major oil fields off the coast of Angola, however, have changed the whole situation, with Germany currently depending on oil supplies from Romania, Persia, Azerbaijan. Having a steady source of petroleum with our colonial empire would be a true bliss for economy. We're going to disapprove because we're still not in a good place, I think, to try to. That may have been a mistake. Okay, organize youth. So that is good. And riots and protest at Rangoon University, okay, in Siam. Now, what do we want to do now? So there's trade union. Okay, well, we're almost to a positive state, so I want to do the Kaiser Wilhelm. Get that extra research slot. Okay, well, that should mean, okay, a bunch of these have deployed, good. Now we're in production. Who is Azerbaijan? Well, they're sort of independent. Well, we could always take them. Let's see the southern. Huey Long elected as President of the United States. How interesting. Huey Long was a corruption-type politician out of, I believe, Louisiana. Yeah, governorship of Louisiana. Very sort of charismatic kind of guy. Not somebody I'd want as a president in the United States, that's for sure. Okay, dispersed industry. Well, Well, let's go with getting radios here. Okay, well, to all of you on the stream, hang on for a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end this episode and start up again. So I'm going to stop streaming briefly. So don't leave. Be right back. Okay. And of course, to all of you who are watching on YouTube, I want to thank you very much for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that when you can. Also, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. I love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.